Hello, Nation. Welcome to the Haven Nation Show, your destination for all things Lock Haven Athletics. I'm Nicholas Severini. Ryan State's alongside me. We're coming to you live from the Bear Country Studios' basement in Avis, Pennsylvania. Ryan, it has been an interesting couple of weeks, very busy couple of weeks for both of us, but now it's game week for Lock Haven football. A lot to dissect, a lot to digest as we approach here week one. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, a lot of energy going into this week. We got Jersey Shore football on Friday, had Jersey Shore football last week as well, a late night last Friday night. But we have Jersey Shore this week, and then we have Lock Haven on Saturday. So another busy week for the both of us, but I'm excited to start it.
I think we should start off with just how the last couple of weeks has been. For those of you tuning in, we are recording this the day before it comes out. It comes out on Tuesday. We're recording on Monday on Labor Day. The first two episodes we recorded like weeks ago, and weeks ago before, because, you know, we were able to pre-record the football show. And I wasn't sure how many people were going to watch us. I was expecting like 15 people or so. So to have both hit triple digits, both episodes, just on YouTube alone, let alone on the radio show, that was awesome. So thank you guys for tuning in. We love the comments. We're actually going to read some of your comments in a little bit. That's going to be at the end of the show. But yeah, just starting off with a thank you. You know, this is something I've wanted to do for a while, and I look forward to doing this the rest of the athletic year.
Yeah, I remember you approached me about this. You were really excited about getting this started. I was super on board with it right away. And yeah, to see the first two episodes, field hockey, last I checked, I think was around 130, football around 115. So to see both those hit triple digits is awesome. And again, thank you to everyone out there listening. You know, we're super excited to do this, and the more views we get, the more likes we get on the videos, the more we get to keep doing this.
And speaking of views, we also have been doing Jersey Shore.
Yes,
I think we'll take a couple minutes. For those of you who are ready to get into the meat potatoes of this, skip to about 5 minutes in. Usually this is what this part of the show is for, just to catch up on. But we did Jersey Shore. It was the most stressful 2 weeks worth of games I've ever done. I remember talking to you before Delaware Valley. I'm like, oh, my goodness. This is too much. But, you know, after 2 games that went incredibly well, no technical difficulties, everything working well, I'm confident in saying it's been definitely an adventure doing that too. We are having over 3,000 views for both of the videos now, Ryan, and you know, just for all of your guys' support on the YouTube channel, both for Jersey Shore and Lock Haven, I'm very thankful. I feel very thankful today, and I'm just looking forward to doing it the rest of the way. Now, Ryan, this is your first time really in the high school circuit, and you really got the best of both worlds. You got the week 1 Jersey Shore game that was at home. Then you got the 3-hour drive to the second week game. What's your experience been doing high school football? For you, it's your first time.
Yeah, well, it's been fun, you know, from the first game to have a quarterback who we didn't know the name of. For those who don't know, for Dallas, who Jersey Shore played in week 1, Dallas, PA, mind you, they had a quarterback, number 15, who was nowhere on the roster sheet. They had 4 quarterbacks listed. Number 15 was not one of them. He was not anywhere on the roster at all. All 4 quarterbacks that were listed we saw on the sidelines. We knew it wasn't like a number change or anything. So we operated the entire broadcast having no idea who the name of the quarterback was. We learned it after the fact. We talked to one of the Dallas players, and we found out after the fact. No clue why his name wasn't there, but yeah, between that, the 3-hour car ride to Delaware Valley, which, you know, is right on the New York-PA border, that was a fun one to go to. A stressful game, to say the least. You know, being up 42-14. And Delaware Valley came all the way back, makes it a 7-point game with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Those were 2 exciting games, but they were a lot of fun to do, and I'm excited to keep going with those for sure.
You know, when you do a road game, I think every broadcaster agrees with this, especially if it's far away. You're hoping for a quick one.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're looking for, you know, if it starts at 7, you know, you're out of the building at 9:30. You know, 9 o'clock the game's probably over. That was a 3-hour game.
Yep.
Followed by a 3-hour ride home. I got home, I think. I was the first one home, obviously, and I was there at 1 a.m. So it was a long night, but we're looking forward to doing that. I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm not going to speak for you. Doing that the rest of the season, and we're going to have to start doing that for Lock Haven soon.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've got some longer road trips for Lock Haven. Cal PA is, 3.5 hours?
I'm pretty sure Cal is the furthest one, just under 4 hours.
Yep. Yeah, because even that Delaware Valley game, I think I got home at 2 in the morning, I think is when I texted you. Because, of course, writing for the papers, I had to stop at Sheets on the way there because I knew as soon as I get home, the only thing I was doing was going to bed right away. So stopped at Sheets, wrote for about an hour, drove back home. Yeah, I got home, I think it was around 2:30 in the morning. Woke up at 11, went to Walmart the next day for work.
I feel like oh my gosh, you woke up the next day as well.
Yep.
I feel like people don't realize how much, okay, if you really care about this, how much effort it takes.
Oh, it's a lot.
Like, I'm not going to name names, but, some people put more effort in than others.
Yes.
When you go to other places and, you chat with a lot of the guys, most of them, though, are like this where, they do the 2 to 3 hours worth of notes.
Yep.
They do, they make sure they're there 2 hours, 3 hours early and all of that. And, like, it definitely takes a toll. But when you get done with it, I think is usually the best part where it's like, wow, we really did that thing.
And it's just the satisfaction of, it's over. And then you have a day and then you have a day of rest and you think, crap, in 5 days we've got to do it all over
there
again.
You go.
So
that's how it is.
It's a never-ending cycle. It's just a clock countdown of, all right, well, and you're the one who does the notes for football and all that. So you have the countdown of like, well, I got to start working on notes on Tuesday, maybe get them done by Wednesday or Thursday because we've got to get ready to go on Friday. The games are only for 3 hours, but it can sometimes take double or triple that amount to get everything prepared to go for the game.
I average about 60 to 90 minutes per team. That's
Wow.
usually kind of how it goes. So,
and you write fast.
swig of this water real quick. Yeah, 60 to 90 minutes. So sometimes actually more. I'm not gonna lie. That's an easy estimate. So, but it's all worth it. It's really all worth it because we really have the coolest jobs on the planet. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that's kind of all that matters.
I get paid to sit there and watch football. There's nothing better than that.
Now that being said, would I prefer a 4.5-hour drive back to Glenville, West Virginia? No, but. If we were still there to do it. We'll have that for another time because we have a lot of episodes coming up in the future where we can kill some time. This is not one of them because it is week 1. It is time now for the Glenville State preview. For those of you who watched the football preview last week, we thank you again for your support. Highest rated show out of 2 that we've done. But Glenville State is the opponent now for week 1. This is how the rest of the football season is going to go. We talk about what happened last week. We preview what happens the next week. So Glenville State, a little note about them for the series history. This is just the 3rd ever time these two teams are playing each other. Glenville State, of course, a member of the Mountain East Conference that had its fair share of blows, I think it's fair to say, over the course of week 0. But in the Mountain East Conference, I wouldn't call them contenders, but they're in that second layer. You've got, like, historically Shepherd before they went to the PSAC. You've got likes of Charleston, who are always a highly touted program. Always a couple others. Fairmont State looks really good as well. Glenville State's kind of in that next layer, I would argue. But they're still a valiant team. Finished over 500 last year, if I remember correctly. But this is the 3rd ever meeting, and I like this, in fact, and I was able to find this out doing my notes last year. The first time these two teams ever faced each other, August 28th, 2008, which I just realized is very weird that they played in August. August 28th, 2008 was a 30-0 loss. Do you know why that game is so important, Ryan?
I do not.
It started the 52-game losing streak.
I do remember you saying, I remember you introed this in last year's broadcast.
Yes.
That losing streak, how long did you do, 50?
52 games. 52 games ended against, apologies for pronunciation, Cheney, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Cheney.
Cheney,
because that was the game that it was the end of the season, final game of the year.
And they took the goalpost
tore the goalpost down. Because I remember when I looked into that losing streak, it spanned over 4 years. So there were students that came to Lock Haven as freshmen, went through their entire college career, graduated as seniors without seeing Lock Haven ever win a football game, which is insane. If you look into the history of Lock Haven football, some of the records you will find on just how bad it was for some years is fascinating.
I'm going to say a comment. I don't think Doug Spatafor, who is obviously an excellent friend, excellent companion, would mind me saying this, but he would a common story he would say is that he would go and he would see offensive linemen bigger than him. Or smaller than him, rather. He would see offensive line smaller than him. That was, when they were in the depths, that's what that team would field. And obviously it started with Glenville State of all teams. That was the first time the two teams ever played.
That's incredible.
Second time was last year.
Yep.
It was a lot better. We were there for it.
Yes,
you were there covering it for the paper. I was with Casey Wallace, friend of the show. 31-9 win was the score. When we look back at it, kind of a blip. In my honest opinion, Ryan. But, man, were we excited after that game. We were very excited after that game for a multitude of reasons. I think the top performer on the day was Rocco Doherty. From my view, of course, it could be contentious. But Rocco Doherty had 3 interceptions as the middle linebacker in that game. Obviously, he's coming back this season. Probably the biggest anomaly in that game, admittedly, was K.J. Howard, who was the tailback for Lock Haven last year. KJ rushed for 154 yards. Demir Green rushed for -4 yards.
Oh, because I remember Green had a while where I think it was up until week 4 or 5 he had negative rushing yards, and they were all from that game.
Yes,
and he just kept getting carries that were like he'd get 2 carries a game for 1 yard, so he would like slowly chip away at it. But yeah, no, I remember that game well because that was after the game that I had tweeted that. I think Lock Haven might have the best running game in the PSAC again. Slight overreaction on my part.
You were close. Best passing game.
Best passing game.
PSAC.
Definitely not the best running game last year. That's why they addressed it as much as they did in the offseason this year. But no, that was the one game that Lock Haven felt like they were handily better than the other team.
Can I tell 2 stories from that game? Because there are 2 stories that I remember so vividly, and none of them happened during the game. The first one was getting almost food poisoning from Tudor's Biscuit World. Do you remember that place?
Yes, I do.
West Virginia natives know Tudor's Biscuit World, but we all 3 of us got biscuits. All 3 of us
such good food.
Absolute, just like an absolute brick in our stomach.
Oh yeah.
Like it was a weird feeling after it, but and the second was falling asleep, and one of the video guys for Glenville State coming into the press box and waking me up. So we have our own room at Glenville, and I guess one of the camera guys who was like sleeveless. I don't know. It looked like he had just come from the gym or something.
Yeah, I think was it a student or was it? I think it was a student. Yeah,
it was a student, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And it's like, "Wait, I'm the one sleeping in your press box." I don't know if that's it, but those are my 2 favorite stories from West Virginia. I also remember having to do a field hockey game the next day, and not my best work.
Wait, because that was the game that you had barely slept, so you were like, "I'm gonna take a." Because we always get there about 2 to 3 hours early. We go eat beforehand, and then we get to the stadium. So we get everything set up and whatever. And you were like, I'm just going to take a nap for like 45 minutes. Casey somewhere has a photo of you laying like you're a vampire in a coffin, just straight up laying down, arms crossed and everything. It's amazing. But no, I do remember that. But Tudor's Biscuit World, man, such good food. But, man, was that a problem afterwards. That was all 3 of us, I think, at the same time just went, uh-oh. It did not sit well, but going down was pretty good.
Well, back to the game then, previewing this one. It's a podcast. We're allowed to
go on
like
tangents.
That's for sure. That's what's great. On a broadcast, we're so used to being buttoned up. We don't need to do that here. I say as I'm wearing a polo.
Yes, you are.
But I had a cross-cutter game before. That's why. Glenville State 0-1 this season. Another loss to Emory and Henry to kick out the season. They lost that one 45-17. It wasn't really a good game. Emory and Henry, though, are very touted. I mean, they beat Glenville State pretty badly last season. I can remember.
Yeah, I think last year Emory and Henry beat them pretty bad. It was 38-7, I want to say. But Emory and Henry finished 9-2 last year. Like, it's not like they're losing to some mid-tier school. Emory and Henry is a very good football program. So, well, yes, you might say, oh, Lock Haven's playing a team coming off a blowout loss. It's not really as bad as it might look.
The reason why they gave up 45 points, they lost a ton of defensive pieces, and that talks about what Glenville State brings back. A lot of people may remember Anthony Garrett, the starting quarterback, who was actually benched for someone who played college basketball the year before. I forget his name, but Anthony Garrett was benched last year, and his stats from last year, I think, tell the entire story. Just under 1,900 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. This is the definition of a gunslinger in every aspect of it, for better or for worse. He had, in my notes, I already started the notes, 4 multi-interception games last season. He had 7 interceptions in the first 2 games. He had 4 against Emory and Henry. He had 3 against Lock Haven. But Garrett, I think, not a scrambler, someone that stays in the pocket, can run if he wants, but chooses not to. Bringing back the quarterback's big. They bring back 2 of their top 3 rushers. Xavion Wood, leading rusher from last season, back. Jeremiah King, who I remember actually had a pretty good game in the fourth quarter against us.
Yeah.
And the other part that they bring back, their top 3 leading receivers from last season. So the best way to describe this Pioneer team is that they lost a lot of defense but kept a lot of offense. And I think in terms of how Lock Haven is set up, I don't think it's going to be an easy job for them, especially defensively. And I think that defensive front 7 is really going to be tested.
Yeah, when Glenville ran well against Lock Haven in the first game last year, I think ended up over 120 yards on the ground altogether. They just didn't have a lot of time. Garrett, like you said, threw 3 picks in that game, so they weren't really able to run the ball. But when they did run the ball, it was effective. Yeah, Lock Haven, they're going to shut down the pass. That's what this team is built to do, is to shut down the air. So Glenville State's going to have to run the ball well if they're going to beat Lock Haven. I think Lock Haven knows that. I think they're going to blitz a lot. But, I mean, this Lock Haven team, from what I've heard, feels fairly confident about their front line. It's thin, for sure. We talked about that in the football preview. There's not a lot of depth there. But there was a lot of depth there last year. But last year, all the guys got hurt. So a lot of these young freshmen did play significant minutes or snaps last year because they had to, because the guys in front of them kept getting hurt. And you saw it at the end of the year when these guys kind of got pushed around a little bit by schools like Kutztown, by schools like East Stroudsburg, Westchester. You saw at the line of scrimmage there was the difference there. I think this game, though, could be a good kind of litmus test for them to see where that defensive line is at. If they can shut down the run for Glenville State, I think it looks a bit better.
When you look at the defensive and offensive line, you're going to have to play a freshman there.
Yes.
Especially on offense, and definitely at least, because, defensive line, they usually swap out in rotation.
Yeah.
In that second string of defensive linemen, they might have 1 or 2 freshmen.
Yep.
And I think that's what concerns me. Now, it should be noted Glenville State struggled a ton against Emory and Henry in terms of the run. They only averaged 2.6 yards a carry as a team. Jeremiah King got the most carries in that game, averaged 2.2 a carry. Yeesh. I think when you look at what Lock Haven needs to do, and it's so difficult to preview this game.
Yeah.
We're going to be a lot better at this even by next week. But
Well,
what's
it's
so
easier.
difficult to preview this is that you don't really know what Lock Haven's going to do.
Exactly.
We don't have the 2 deeps yet.
Nope.
We don't know who they're even starting. We're going to predict that later. But it's so difficult because you don't know what this team is. I haven't been to any practices yet this season.
I have not. I'm going to one tomorrow, but as far as I've not seen any, saw some in the summer, but in terms of fall camp, I've not seen anything of what this team lines up as or what this team wants to do.
The other thing I noted from Glenville State watching their tape, ton of different targets. I mean, you look at the amount of guys that have made a reception in that game. I mean, I know a lot of it wasn't garbage time too, but I remember Garrett doing the same exact thing in week 1 of last year. This Glenville State team too passes it a ton to a ton of different targets. Now, that part of it, I'm not too concerned about because if it's one thing Lock Haven really did, it's get guys in the secondary. But my big this needs to get done is within the trenches, and I think that's going to be a case, Ryan, all season.
Yeah, and I think, talking about the defensive line, I think for the offensive line, this is a prove-it game for them, straight up. They have to beat Glenville State on the offensive line, because if you can't beat Glenville State, good luck beating teams like Bloomsburg and ESU at the line of scrimmage. I mean, you mentioned they're starting at least 1 freshman tackle, if not 2 redshirt freshman tackles. I mean, it is a young offensive line, especially on the ends. So I am interested to see how they look. If they can hold their own against Glenville State, it's a good outlook for them that maybe they can do so against other PSAC schools. But then again, the PSAC is the best conference in this region, I would say, in terms of strength, especially in football. So it's not a great test, but it's at least something that we'll get to see.
One thing that for those of you just, maybe a casual viewer for Lock Haven sports, maybe missed the football preview, Lock Haven brought only 2 transfer offensive linemen and lost all 5 of their starters last season, basically.
Which we thought was going to be a lot more. I was expecting them to get 4 or 5, maybe even 6 guys through the portal. They only brought in 2.
Yeah, both from Lackawanna College, Christian Bundra and Johnny Cranford Jr. I'd be stunned if they didn't start. They're both interior linemen.
Yep.
I believe Bundra is the center.
Bundra
or is Lanford the center? One of them or Cranford's the center. One of them's a center.
I think Cranford was the center. I think if I remember correctly, Bundra was the right guard for Lackawanna last year.
So if Bundra is the right guard, or one of the two, here's basically what my question is. How many Lackawanna, do you put them in the interior offensive line, or do you move one at left tackle for Ostrowski? I'm assuming who is the starter.
Yes.
Again, we don't know what the duties, but do you move one out at left tackle? Because that's kind of the saying now in football is that, the left tackle is the second most important position on the field.
You can. It's so hard. Like, a lot of people think that every offensive line position is the same. It is. Could not be farther apart in terms of what their jobs are for each position. Even if you go from left tackle to right tackle, that is a massive change in terms of what your job is. So if you have a guy that doesn't, these guys might have tackle experience in high school, and if so, they might be a little more accustomed to adjust to that at the college level, but it is so hard, especially when they don't have any time in game to kick one out to tackle and just kind of say, do what you can. I guess unless they have experience, I would be shocked if those two don't start inside.
All right, so since this is week 1, we don't have any games last week to talk about. We're going to do something a little different. Since we don't have the 2 deeps, I thought I was going to get it today, but it's Labor Day, so I'll probably get them tomorrow, Ryan. We're going to predict them. We're going to predict the starting lineup. And I want to be very clear. We know nothing. I don't know anything. I already don't know anything, but I especially don't know anything about this. So this is all predictions, position by position. We're going to see who starts, all right?
I have some things that I've heard, so I have some educated guesses, but at the end of the day,
nothing concrete.
These are guesses from both of us as terms to what is what.
If it's one thing about me, I am very closeted in terms of anything regarding that stuff. I do my work and I get out. So that's how I like it. That's how I do in every job. So we're gonna do that. But anyway, my prediction is someone who doesn't know anything. I need to really emphasize
we need to stress this. We have no clue.
Really stress this. I think that Ostrowski is not. Yeah, no, Ostrowski is the starter.
That is, I think, the one position where, and again, we don't know. There is a chance that he got beat out in camp. I would be floored if that is the case. Ostrowski, again, led the PSAC in passing yards by over 700 yards. He is the incumbent starter. It's going to be really hard to replace him. It would be floored if there's a way he's not trotting out week 1 as the starter.
Over under quarterbacks used on Saturday 2.5.
Under. I think you see Ostrowski, obviously, and I think Footman's going to get some snaps as a gadget quarterback.
You don't think Nagel slots in anywhere?
I doubt it. They have the games to use him. The rule is for redshirts. If they want to redshirt him, he can appear in 4 games. After the 4th game, if he appears in a 5th game, he loses the redshirt. So they have the opportunity to give him looks if they want to. But barring injury, I would say you only see 2, and maybe not even 2. I'm guessing that they're going to use Footman as a gadget, but that's a pure guess.
There's no Cole Transu hive in the quarterback room right now. There's no 2-time spring game starter Cole Transu words getting heard at all?
Like I said, I've heard nothing. But if I see Cole Transu, I'd be excited for him, but I would be surprised.
Easton, Pennsylvania's finest. All right, tailback is interesting. I think, for me, the starter is Demir Green.
I agree.
It is very easy to go, hey, maybe Ezekiel Johnson. Tucker Teat started the spring game. You've got a couple factors there. Ezekiel Johnson is the Jackson State transfer.
Yep.
And you've also got like 5 other freshman and sophomore running backs. I'm going to say it's Green, it's Johnson, and it's Teats getting carries on Saturday.
I am going to say that I think I agree with you. I think Green is going to be the starter to start the year. I don't know if he's going to end the year as the starter. I think he's going to be to start the year. They brought in Ezekiel Johnson, like you said, from Jacksonville State. He's going to see some carries. I think the other one that I'm going to throw out there that I think might get some touches is Kareem Hathcock. I'm going to this is purely a guess. I think that he's going to be a surprise one that we see maybe get some touches.
Kareem Hathcock. I think he did. Did he play a little bit during the spring game, didn't he?
He played a little bit during the spring game. I think he appeared in a game last year. Or I think he might have appeared in a few games last year. Again, this is purely a guess. Tucker is the one. Tucker Teets, like you mentioned, I could see getting some touches, but I think it might be a little too early for him. I think that might be one that he sees some snaps when guys get tired when the season goes on. But I think for the starter, I think it's going to be Green.
I'm looking at the next one now, and it is the wide receiver position. And this is really difficult, and it's really not fair to try to make a top 3 out of these receivers, Ryan,
no.
only because, 6 of them plus are going to play. But when I'm looking at the starting lineup, who's going to start, I'm going to go, and I'm actually changing my mind as I'm reading this. I had one, and now I think I'm going to change it. I'm going to go Justin Popovich, Darrell Caesar, Mekhi Watson. I don't think any of the 3 transfers at least start. I was impressed with what Jake Roberts especially did in the spring game.
Yep.
Now, there wasn't a lot of offense in that spring game at all. But Roberts, Deion King featured a little bit. I haven't seen much about Devin Barnes, the Keystone College transfer. I'm going to go with the familiar guys. If one of them doesn't start, I'm going to guess that Jake Roberts does.
I think the one that is for sure you're going to see him play is Popovich. Justin Popovich played a lot last year, would have played more, got hurt in the game against Millersville, had the touchdown-winning catch, and then got hurt. I think Popovich is going to be the one for sure that's going to play. And the other ones, it's a crapshoot. I'm going to agree with you that I think it's Darrell Caesar as the number 2 option. He
did have one catch last season.
Yeah, got targeted a lot last year. Unfortunately, wasn't able to bring any of them in. There was a couple overthrows, a couple of miscommunications, a couple drops in there as well. But I think they brought him in. Again, this is a kid who had a preferred walk-on spot at Penn State when he committed to Lock Haven, had a scholarship to Akron, is one of a few Pennsylvania wide receivers ever to eclipse 2,000 yards in a single high school season. Is a kid with talent, and I think that he's going to play. That's why he came here. He came here to play, and I think he's going to. I think the third one is Deion King.
Oh, Deion, you think? See, he was too quiet in the spring game for me.
That's fair.
That's my issue with
the
it.
reason I'm looking at it like that, and the other one I would throw out there is Zaire Williams, I think, as well. But when you look at the heights of these guys, Caesar is 6'2", 190. Popovich is 6'3", 196. Popovich is going to be your X-receiver, try to fill in that Tyre Young role. I think Deion King lines up as the slot, 6 foot 185, and he's really fast. I think that's what gets him the snaps over some other guys there, like Mekhi Watson, for example, because Watson isn't the speedster that King is, and I think that they're going to need a speed option on the inside. I think that's going to be King, and I think he's the third, but Watson, I think, is going to line up right behind him. Behind him is the fourth, and is going to get just as many targets as King does.
Can I tell you, in the second half, I'm only keeping it to the second half of last season, Mekhi Watson might have been the second best receiver on the team.
He was very good.
In my opinion, past Tyre Young. Watson, the thing is, yes, he is not as quick, but man, he doesn't drop footballs.
No, he doesn't.
And I remember he had solemnly played in the beginning of the year, and I can remember a specific catch against Shepherd where he absolutely high-pointed it, toe-tapped it on the sideline like 10 yards away from us. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, where in the world has this guy been? I would argue that Watson played his way, not in the starting lineup, but into the 2-deep. And I think Watson, I'm going to go as far as to say, and a lot can change over an offseason, he might be one of the best receivers, if not the best this year for them.
I agree. I think Watson is someone that at the end of the year you're going to see potentially even being their number 1 option. Because Watson impressed me a lot last year. The only reason I think he might not start right away is because I think they're going to go to some higher pedigree players off the bat and some older guys off the bat. King is more experienced than Watson. They're both redshirt sophomores, but King is a little bit older than what Watson is. And I think that might end up being the tiebreaker, but it's going to be neck and neck. And I wouldn't be surprised if after Saturday we look at the snap count and it's Popovich up here and it's 4 or 5 guys right here. Like, they're all going to share snaps. I think you're going to see maybe as many as 6 or 7 receivers play in week 1. Because it's the one position that if they're going to do we're going to see how you play on the field. Like, we're going to use this as almost another practice game to see how you play against real competition. I think it's going to be receivers. So I think you're going to see a lot of them play.
Final part of the offense, I'm going to skip the O-line because that's just such a
The O-line is,
smorgasbord.
we genuinely have, like, the only 2 I'm confident are saying are going to start is the 2 Lackawanna guards and maybe Deshaun Johnson at tackle.
Leading it off then, tight end, just Jaden Huntington.
Yep.
Is that about, we both agree on that?
When I talked to Coach Battaglia for preseason interviews. He seemed very impressed with how Huntington did this offseason. I think he's going to be the one to get the bulk of the snaps.
All right, before we get to the defense, this is the halfway points we always have to plug. For those of you tuning in, we hope that you're watching that Lock Haven game on Saturday. Coverage starts at 5:30, 6 o'clock kickoff at Hubert Jack Stadium. Ryan States and myself will be on the call. The day before, you want a little high school football fix. How about this? Jersey Shore, Selinsgrove, Friday night. Coverage starts 6:30 for a 7 o'clock kickoff. Jersey Shore 2-0 on the season. Selinsgrove, from my sources, have not been impressive this year.
0-2.
They are coming off of a very bad loss. Jersey Shore expected to be favorites.
Yep.
Might be one of the higher scoring teams in the entire state based off of what they've done so far. So Jersey Shore Selinsgrove Friday at 6:30 coverage starts, and then at 5:30 coverage starts for Lock Haven against Glenville State. And if you are listening to us on the radio, we are also a video podcast on the Bear Country 999 YouTube channel. We've had over 160 views for the football preview. We'd like to have more, so subscribe, hit the like button. Thank you all for supporting us and tuning into this very new show. I've been very happy with the support we talked about before, Ryan. You are too. So keep tuning in. Thank you so much for supporting. We'll get to your comments at the end of this show. But first, defense. So the defensive line. If we were picking out, we'll just say 4 defenders here. I think both former transfers in the case of Reese McDonald. I think McDonald starts on one edge.
Yep.
Luke Richard Rameau is in there as well. Things get a little bit tricky from there. I don't see them going true freshman yet. Justin Castro-Dixon was on the cusp of even starting because of all the injuries from last season, so I think he is in. And I think Isaiah Scott is going to be a real key player at nose tackle. Those are my 4 defensive starters.
I think I have to agree with you. Rameau and McDonald are the 2 leaders to be the edge rushers right now. I think I would be surprised if those 2 aren't off the edge for them. McDonald was here last year, was really productive last year. Lucard Rameau coming in from West Virginia State. He was another really good productive player there. He comes here to Lock Haven. He came here to start, and I think he's going to. The interior is the question. I agree with you. I think Justin Castro-Dixon gets a lot of looks. Like you said, played a lot last year due to injury. Isaiah Scott is one, like you said, that's going to play a lot. I think the dark horse to see some snap is going to be Alex Lefebvre, the redshirt freshman from Bald Eagle area. He was a really good run defender for Bald Eagle area when he was there in high school 2 years ago. So I think you're going to see him play a lot. I think you're going to see him, especially if Glenville State starts to run the ball really well, I think you're going to see a little bit more Lefebvre. But other than that, I think this is a defensive line that there's really 6 or 7 guys that we could see play, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's
difficult when you preview the defensive line and the defensive linebacking group because it is, I would say, pretty obvious who starts, in my personal opinion, only because of the thinness of the depth. So you go a linebacker here. You're thinking Doherty, you're thinking Walker, and you're thinking for the third linebacker, it's a little bit of a toss-up. But those 2 of Doherty and Walker, I think, are very much even keel. You're thinking of who else can get there. Alex Yost, I know, had an impressive spring game. Gavin Papp as well. I'm going to put Papp in as that third linebacker. They do have a Kutztown transfer in Bode Seipel, but he didn't play, so I'm not prepared to really wax poetic about him. But I would probably go Papp, Doherty, and Walker as the 3 linebackers.
Yeah, I think Doherty is the one that you can confidently say is going to see snaps. Might be as the Mike linebacker. When I talked to Coach Battaglia, they hadn't decided who was going to be the Mike this year. But I think if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Doherty. Again, was the surprise of the year last year for them. I think everybody was surprised with how he played. I agree with you. I think Pat might see some snaps. Walker might see some snaps. But again, it's one that, those are the 3 kind of guys that when you think about it are, those are the 3 that you're going to say you're going to be confident in are going to play. There are some other safeties. Ja'Kai Bogarty might see some as like a downhill safety linebacker hybrid. Damian Vernon might be another one that works that listed as a DB on the depth chart. I was told he's going to play linebacker, so some contradictions there. We'll see again when we get the 2 deeps as to what's going to be what. But linebacker, the problem with the linebacker is it's so thin that if one of those guys were to unfortunately go down, that's when it becomes the Wild West almost of who's going to play.
So that's a good transition to discuss the defensive backs. And this is probably the most difficult part of the field to to preview because of the amount of talent. I think if this team wants to win more than 3 or 4 games this year, the secondary has to be the best in the PSAC. And I think if everything goes their way and the injury bug stays out, that they have the potential to. The first name that comes up is Bam Morgan. Yeah. I don't have captains. I'm going to guess he is a captain.
Probably.
He's very experienced. He's one of the few that's played in the last couple of seasons, period. You've got a real wild card with a lot of the different transfers. Ja'Kai Bogarty was kind of relegated to a backup position last year, but I'd be surprised if that was the case. You've got Tyler Merworth, who is an Albany transfer. I'm going to go, okay, looking at it now to make an actual prediction here because it's a bit of an overwhelming one. I'm going to have Bam and Troy Miller. That's my initial view potentially at safety. I'm going to go with Merworth, the Albany transfer, and A.J. Anderson, the Temple transfer, to complete the secondary.
Okay, so there's a little bit of discrepancy with me. I agree. I think Bam Morgan is going to be the one that, he played a lot last year. I think he'll play this year. I think Ja'Kai Bogarty gets the start. Over Troy Miller. Troy Miller, spring game MVP last year. Him and Jaden Huntington were the two last year. We thought they'd play last year. Neither of them did very much. But Troy Miller, really good player. I think he's going to be that third safety for them. He's going to play a lot. He's going to get in rotation. I think it's going to be him and Bogarty and kind of, depending on down and distance of who's going to play where. Defensively, I think A.J. Anderson is one that's going to start week 1. They brought him in from Temple. You don't typically bring in Division I FBS guys to not play. I mean, Lockhaven did last year at receiver. Can't remember his name. They got the receiver from Temple last year who saw no snaps in any of the games. I think some of that was due to injury as well, but didn't see any significant playing time. But you don't bring in a guy from Temple to not try him out there week 1, at least from my point of view. Moreworth, I think, is going to see some snaps. The other one I'll throw out there is Quan McMillan. I think you could see him play a little bit as well. I think he's a really good player. They brought him in. They recruited him, I should say, out of New Jersey. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to see some snaps as that third rotational corner. But this is a lot like the receiver room. Wearing Poindexter is another one, I think, who will see some snaps, the redshirt freshman. This is a room I think that's going to end up a lot like we talked about with the receivers, where you could see 6 or 7 guys come in and out of this lineup, especially in week 1, as they try to figure out and they try to see who cements themselves as the starters.
Kicker, there's only 3 kickers on the team here. This is the last part I want to discuss. 2 freshmen, Caden Bauer, Noah Sharina, and then you have the transfer, Jimmy O'Brien. I would assume O'Brien would at least punt. He's from Bryan. He's an FCS transfer. Kicking, I'm a little concerned about. Lose your kicker from last season. It's your 3rd different kicker in as many years. By the way, a Lockhaven kicker has the record for longest field goal in the PSAC.
Yes, he does. We were both there for that game.
Were we ever? If I'm a big believer that special teams win and loses you games.
Yes.
And as that, I'm concerned with the lack of experience and options in terms of the kicking unit.
I would argue last year that their struggle with kicking lost them some games. I look at that Westchester game as that's a game that could have ended up differently if their kicking had been better last year. There was some questions if they were going to replace their kicker midseason last year. It was Tony Nicasio, if I remember correctly. I hope I got the first name right. I know the last name's right. I hope I got the first name right as well. But Nicasio struggled last year. We questioned whether they would start or they would bring in somebody else. Caden Burns was on the team at the time. Wondered if he would play. He ended up not doing so. You bring in Jimmy O'Brien from Bryant. He's a guy that punted and kicked at the FBS level. Not to some great success, as we found out looking at his average punt yardage. It was 30.
Less than 40.
Yeah, less than 40 yards per punt or something. So
he had one 50-yard punt,
which is not something that you want to see necessarily from your starting punter. But it's going to be a weird one. Caden Bauer, Noah Sharina. This is one that's wide open, and it's one that in practice it's really hard to tell. Because being a kicker in practice and being a kicker in a game are 2 very different things. It's why you see in the NFL guys that'll hit 75-yard field goals in practice easily and then can't hit a 40-yard field goal in a game. Game pressure, especially for a kicker, is a lot different than it is for most other positions. So it's one that even in practice, you're never really going to be able to know until you know. So I think O'Brien trots out week 1 as a starting kicker, and if it goes well, then great. If it doesn't, you might see some other kids play down the line.
Before we move on from football, is there any other notes you need for the game? Anything worth discussing? I didn't want to leave it. I see you had a lot of notes there.
I think the thing for me is just this game. I think for both of us is pretty nerve-wracking, and it feels like it shouldn't be, but it very much is, because I have it written here. This program has bought no goodwill. Not that they haven't done well over the last few years, but there is no leeway here with Lock Haven football. This is not a team that we can confidently come out and say is going to beat Glenville State by 20. Every game last year was a nail-biter for the most part. Every PSAT game certainly was a nail-biter. I remember the game last year versus Millersville. We talked about this on the ride to Jersey Shore game, that game was one they were trailing at halftime to a very not good Millersville team, a team they were solidly better than, and they had to scrape together a victory. Same thing happened with Shippensburg. So this is a nerve-wracking game, I think, for both of us. I think we both think Lock Haven's going to win, but I don't think either of us are very confident in it until we see it on the field.
All right, score prediction then before we move on. 21-17 Lock Haven in a nail-biter. I think this is a team that has learned how to win.
Yep.
Bring back a lot of experience from last year. I think they've learned how to win. They've learned how to take these close games, but they're also a team that plays to their competition a little bit too. We saw that against Shippensburg, and we saw that against Millersville last season. I'm going to say that they're trailing in the fourth. They're down 17-14 at one point in Lock Haven because they only know how to make it dramatic and make me lose my voice. I think I lose my voice, I'll tell you that much.
Most games I think you do.
I usually did, yes. I think this is going to be a lost voice game. I think they go 1-0. I think it's 21-17. That's my guess.
Nick, I'll be honest with you. I think they could win 40-0, and you still find it. I'm saying I think they could win.
That was your guess.
I think they could win 40-0, and you would still find a way to lose your voice by the end of the game. So,
but you know what I mean. It's gonna be one that most don't have a voice after.
I agree. I think it's gonna be. I think a little higher scoring. I think we're gonna see some of the brakes taken off this offense. I think you're gonna see a lot more of a dynamic offense than it even was last year. And it was a very dynamic offense last year. I think there's going to be, when you're with Battaglia now being the head coach, if there's any decisions last year that he wanted to do that got vetoed, it's him now. So if he wants to throw the ball for 700 yards in a game, they're going to go for it. So I think it's going to be a little higher scoring both ways. I think the game's going to end up, I'll say 34-27. Lock Haven wins.
34-27. So a one-possession game.
Yes.
We both think a one-possession game win.
I think it's going to be close until Lock Haven handily beats a team. I'm going to assume every game is going to be close. And they did beat Glenville State handily last year, but it's a season-by-season thing. Until they do it, I'm going to guess it's close, but I do think Lock Haven manages to win. It's we saw it last year in the night game against IUP. A team that IUP historically solidly better than Lock Haven, I would say. And that night atmosphere, that Hubert Jack Stadium atmosphere, really kept that game close for a lot of it. I think you're going to see the same here, and I think Lock Haven is going to reverse what happened in that IUP game, and I think they're going to get the win.
5:30 coverage starts 6 o'clock. Kickoff on the Bear Country Sports Network on Saturday. Quick field hockey catch-up. We got about 5 to 6 minutes left here. Field hockey catch-up, not the best start to the season. One thing that the field hockey program has done is that they've scheduled so many difficult out-of-conference games.
Yep.
And they really had their boundaries tested. Against Syracuse, 15-0 was the loss. They were outshot 39-1. The one shot came in the fourth period. Syracuse scored 20 seconds in. Bo Van Kempen. I have to get that.
That's good pronunciation. Yeah, right. Much better than I could have done.
I had to learn that from last year. Van Kempen had a hat trick within 20 minutes. Had 4 goals, 5 goals, counting it, 6 total goals by the end of it. Syracuse 11th in the country.
Yep.
One thing that I know that Lock Haven is able to do is that they could get pretty roped by the good teams, but against lesser competition, they are more competitive, and that's what happened against Colgate. Colgate historically has struggled, only had 4 wins last season. Lock Haven was more competitive.
Yes.
Had it at a 1-goal game in the second half, but lost to the Raiders 5-3. It was good to see Melanie Beal get a brace. Beal scoring twice in that one in the first half and one in the second half. Kendall Siegel had a late goal to try and make it dramatic. I think it was 4-3 at that point.
Yep.
But Colgate, I'm assuming with Lock Haven going all out attack, Colgate would score one in the last 10 minutes of that one. to see it out. Field hockey has Towson and Georgetown upcoming, so 2 more difficult games for them. And the last thing I want to talk about before we get to our comments, soccer starts soon. And
Yes, it does.
Okay, here's the deal. I'm done. I think I'm going to be done broadcasting soccer this year for Lock Haven because I'm too busy.
Fair.
I'm too busy, and, I love doing the soccer. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to the games.
Oh, yeah.
I've learned that I need to not broadcast every opportunity I get and just say yes to everything, but I am very much looking forward. I have been forever, I always wanted to have like a local team to support for soccer.
Yep.
Growing up in Jersey, you had the Red Bulls that were 45 minutes away and all that stuff. West Virginia, when I was in college, they didn't have any local teams that I wasn't broadcasting. I am making Lock Haven Soccer my team.
Alrighty.
So I see the women's polls 8th out of 9. I think the preseason polls don't know what they're talking about.
Well,
that's my opinion.
Preseason polls never matter. I mean, at the end of the day, all it is just guessing.
Sure.
You never know year to year what it's going to look like.
Women's soccer 8th out of 9 in the poll in the East. Men's soccer 4th out of 6 in the West. But I got to tell you, I watched both of those teams last season. The women are building something.
Yep.
They need to get things more going in the attacking third, in my view. But this is a very structured women's team. I saw them play, I think, to a draw against Mansfield last season. Men's soccer caused an upset last season against Millersville, it was. Millersville, which was their ranked team. So I'm all in, and I'm going to be a supporter. I'm going to be either in the press box or in the stands. I won't be calling it. I'll be watching it. I will be part of the Ultras. And it's free to get in.
Yes,
so,
it is.
I'm not going to lie. It's nice. So if you're a soccer fan in the area, get to a couple games because both sets of teams are exciting. And also, have to plug this, of course, Jimmy Pombor is the best player on a Division I team now. Jimmy Pombor, who played as an underclassman with Lock Haven, is now the best player at Bucknell, a team that won their conference last season.
Really?
In my opinion, the best team at Bucknell. Some might disagree. I disagree with them. So I'm all in on soccer this year, Ryan.
Alrighty.
Not as a commentator, but as a fan. They are going to be my team this year.
I think that was a perfect 3-minute hype video. If they were going to do a Lock Haven soccer hype video, I think they just need to take that clip and just post it wherever they can. You've got me on it, Nick. Let's, when's the first game?
That's a good question. Well, here's the thing. Both teams are on road trips, unfortunately.
Oh,
and a lot of them play the same Saturdays that we're on the road.
Yes, they do, yeah.
But they have a couple of those games, I think 6 or 7, that are a Wednesday 4 o'clock, a Tuesday 6 o'clock, and best believe I'm going to be at those.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm, I get out of class by then, so yeah, let's hit up some of those soccer games for sure.
Let's do it. Catch us in the stands, fans of the Haven
You can ask us questions. I don't know what you would want to ask us, but if you want to, go for it.
Hey, speaking of questions,
yes.
You guys filled up the comment section a little bit in the first couple. We have 3 comments from the first 2. If you want to have your comment heard, make sure it's appropriate, 1. And 2, make sure you leave it under this episode, which is going to be published obviously, you'll be listening to it at this point. But we publish all our episodes Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and you can also hear us live on the radio Tuesday nights as well. So from the first episode, Chad States, wonder who that is.
Yeah, Chad States. I have could not guess. For any of those who don't know, that's my dad.
Mr. States, friend of the program,
yeah, absolutely.
Who always a very kind person to talk to during wrestling games or before wrestling games. We were talking about wrestling.
Yes.
2 weeks ago when the show came out. We were talking about why Penn State doesn't play Lock Haven. According to Chad States, we used to wrestle Penn State and be very competitive when he was in school back in the 90s and the EWL years. Kale changed the entire landscape at Penn State. I remember Kerry Kalot came to Lock Haven from Penn State. Can you imagine if Lock Haven – well, they did it last year, actually.
Yes, they
did. They poached a 125. But imagine poaching a Penn State starter to Lock Haven. That is incredible.
I can remember because my dad talks about this all the time. Kerry Kalot was a 4-time PA State champ, is considered one of, if not the best high school wrestlers ever. There's a video you can find out there on YouTube of people talking about it, and Kolot's name comes up a lot. My dad was working in the athletic department. I think I said this in the first episode as well. My dad was working in the athletic department when this happened, and he tells it as almost like if it was God returning to the earth. It was that level of, oh my, what just happened moment. Of course, won a national championship here at Lock Haven, is one of the great Lock Haven athletes ever. His name and picture posted up in Thomas Fieldhouse. But yeah, I remember that. My dad tells that story all the time of just what that was like to have Colot come here.
We also received a comment on the football preview from Nathan M18. We were having a very heated debate. Water was thrown, fists were thrown as well about the new potential helmet for the blackout game.
Shout out Nathan. So that's my friend that I did high school basketball with in high school.
And he's at Villanova now.
Yes, he's my friend at Villanova. He's actually broadcasting the Villanova-Penn State game. Gets to go to Beaver Stadium to broadcast a Villanova game.
You got a spare ticket?
I say I am incredibly jealous. Also, you've got to get me out to a Villanova basketball game at some point, Nathan.
Ooh.
I know you're going to be listening to this because I'm going to send it to you. You've got to get me to a Nova game at some point this year.
So Nathan said he agrees with Ryan, kiss ass. Arizona's Wildcat-themed helmets look sick coming from a son of two U of A alumni, as do Ole Miss's. Okay, sure.
Ole Miss is a good one. I didn't think about that one.
Maryland's and Mississippi State. Okay, when anyone thinks of Maryland's helmet, they don't think of the one that says Maryland.
I think of the checkered, the two-tone flag, which that helmet I hate. But
oh, I like it.
I don't like that Maryland teams for some reason have such an infatuation with their flag. I feel like every Baltimore or team based in Baltimore or Maryland uses that flag constantly.
I had a roommate in college from Maryland. He had the flag up, and he had a whole gallon of Old Bay seasoning that he'd hide under his bed.
Everybody uses it. The Maryland plate has their flag on it. Is it a cool flag? Yes.
It is a flag.
It is one of the flags of the United States for sure, but it's not that great. I think we need to tone down the flag usage a little bit.
And that's going to wrap it up then for today's show. Glenville State on Saturday, Jersey Shore, Selinsgrove on Friday, alongside Ryan States. Again, I'm Nicholas Severini. So long here from the Bear Country basement. We'll see you next time.